Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, dude, I'm so happy to have you on for one. And I was kind of waiting to really start talking to you like how I would until we hit record because I wanted to feel very, I don't know, organic, I guess. But I'm looking at your studio and it's like, dude, that is a fucking setup right there. Is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back there?
Oh, yeah. So I'll try to turn it without knocking it out. But right over there, it's like a multicade. And I'm kind of a dork. So it has like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then on the front, there's like Street Fighter and, all the good stuff.
Oh, does it have like one of those, I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Raspberry Pi or whatever it's called?
Yeah, it has something like that inside of it because there's like 4,000 games or something crazy like that.
You got Mortal Kombat?
Oh, yeah. Have to have Mortal Kombat, bro. Mortal Kombat Ultimate, Mortal Kombat 3. It was one of those things where any big wins usually goes to buying something super dorky. It's not even anything. Some people would be like, man, I'm going to get a crazy house or a crazy car or a crazy whatever. I'm like, I'm going to get an arcade machine.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. Well, the studio looks sick. I mean, it's Saturday. It's 12:30 in Nashville, which I learned recently. Y'all are only 2 hours ahead. I always thought Nashville was 3 hours ahead. So when you were like, yo, can we jump on at 12:30? I was like, I looked at my clock and it was 9:30. I was like, oh shit, am I late or something like that?
I know the time change is crazy. It's funny because it's only 2 hours, but when I go to LA, it always messes with me every time.
Yeah. Dude, I feel that way if I go to Vegas, which is the same time.
You're like, it just feels crazier here. They do. I always love how in the casinos they leave on all the lights, and there's no windows, so you have no idea what time it is. You could just rock until 5 and be like, wait, it's 5 a.m.
It's for the pure degenerates in Vegas.
It literally.
Well, dude, I mean. Like I'm saying, it's Saturday in Nashville. What does a Saturday for Sam Tinnesz look like? What has today been like? What's your Saturday like? Because you're a busy guy, you're a songwriter, you're a dad, you're a husband.
Yeah, I mean it's a crazy. I feel kind of like a juggler. I'm always kind of juggling something, and I'll drive. The weekends are my chance to kind of get back to hanging with the kids, hang with my wife. And usually me and my wife will have a date night on Saturdays. And honestly, though, when everybody's asleep, on a Saturday night, since I don't have to wake up early for anything on Sunday, I'm usually doing a bunch of makeup emails and, thinking about the next song that's coming or the next video or the next collab or whatever. So I mean, I love doing what I'm doing. So it doesn't feel like work to me. So I'm just always thinking about it. And usually I try to make that mode on the weekend when everybody's asleep. So
Absolutely, dude. Well, just once again, I mean, obviously, we're chatting for this podcast, but
yeah,
I think I'm a bit biased, but you're one of my favorite guys in the music industry, I would say.
Thank you, man.
Such a humble guy, a very, very talented mind. And, somebody that, we've only hung out in person, I think once, but I consider you a friend,
Same.
and it's so cool because I think what's really interesting about having this time to have this conversation is there's still so much I don't know about you. And I'm and I don't mean that in a weird way.
No.
But it's I'm really curious, and with this podcast, I always like to kind of start from the beginning a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, for one, were you Nashville born or where were you born?
So, and you can, people ask me all the time about this. I have these planes on my arms, and my dad was a navigator and captain in the Air Force, also electronic warfare officer. So we moved all over the place. I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So one of the coldest, craziest places ever. And then we moved to California for a while in Sacramento, and then we moved to Florida. So I moved all over the place. Never really was stationed anywhere. So I was just kind of used to making new friends. Every day was just making new friends because there weren't I didn't grow up with the same people, and we all had kids together and we all knew each other. It was every 4 years we were switching it up. So I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota, in this whole Air Force era, of my life. And my dad passed away when I was younger. So I got these planes on my arm to remember him.
Oh.
And yeah, so I moved to Nashville, honestly, because it was a choice of going to UGA in Athens, which is kind of a music town, but a little bit more jam bandy, which it wasn't my vibe. And then, or Nashville, which I thought, I don't know, in my head. I mean, back then I was thinking Nashville, there's tons of studios, there's tons of like stuff going on. But when I got here, I was like, oh no, it's just Christian music and country music, like at the time, because it was like 2007 or something like that. So I moved here a long time ago.
Dude, that's so wild too. That's funny. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was in the Air Force, and he was a navigator as well. And so
no way.
Moved all over the place. Yeah, he was a navigator on the SR-71.
Oh, those are sick. Dang.
He's just like going Mach 3 and shit. Like,
dude, it's like.
And she did the same thing. Like, they settled in Sacramento for a period of time as well, because I think there is like an Air Force base like around that area.
Yeah, it's almost like when anybody says they're from these like really random places, I'm like always like, was your family in the Air Force or something? They're like, oh yeah. I mean, Grand Forks, like there's nothing there other than just being an Air Force base. And, but I will say, so like vintage band tees are kind of like something I look for, but also like vintage Air Force stuff. I love going online and finding because we used to live at the Mather Air Force Base and a few other places. But anyway, so it's just like, it's crazy. It's a crazy life. I think it's even wilder than being a touring artist, which is kind of crazy to say because touring artists are always on the road. But it's like people in the military, they're just gone all the time,
Yeah. That's really wild. I mean, it's funny too that you mentioned like why you settled in Nashville. Like, can you imagine like a timeline if you did go to Athens, Georgia, and you just started like a Dave Matthews like tribute band, or just like playing Fish and stuff like that?
I mean, literally, I could fake it, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't think, but all my friends in high school, they all loved. I was the dork because they all loved Dave Matthews Band. They loved like Grateful Dead. They loved all this stuff like to smoke weed too and like wear these crazy puka shell necklaces with hemp. And I'm like, I'm over here listening to like freaking Orgy and Korn and Chevelle and all this rock stuff that was playing on, and it's just funny because I think they were like, what are you listening to? Like, what is this shit? Like Incubus and all that stuff, back then. And it's just funny. Like, yeah, if I would have went to Athens, I would have been a miserable person. Probably wouldn't have done much of anything in music. I probably would have just sucked.
You would have like known a couple chords on acoustic guitar and had some Birkenstocks, and that would have probably been it.
Dude, if Crocs were a thing, I would be rocking the Crocs, just my guitar so high up on my chest, like the no neck.
Yo, I have a confession. I am a Crocs stan now. I would say.
Posty made them cool though. Posty changed everything.
Dude, Crocs, you know what? They're kind of having like a bit of a glow up moment, I think, right now.
Crocs and Coors Light. Like I never thought about drinking Coors Light until I saw Posty just slamming them, and I was like, I mean, they must be good. He drinks a lot of those things, Yeah.
I mean, who knows, dude? Maybe 2 years from now, there might be a Sam Tinnesz, Crocs, or Coors Light, collaboration. You never know, dude.
I mean, crazier things have happened. So,
or maybe Birkenstock too. You never know.
Birkenstock. Dude, if Birkenstocks comes back, I'm not going there. There's a few things I can roll with. Like one thing was like the cassette tapes. I'm like, y'all are stupid. It sucks to rewind and fast forward. I was so pumped when CDs came out because I was like, I hate rewinding. I'd be a kid with my little like yellow Walkman. I'm like rewind as like a 5-year-old, something rewinding and like it's the Nirvana Nevermind album never was sweeter when I finally got it all on a disc. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's so funny. And like before we jump into my next question, like it's funny you bring that up because like I'm 28 and like so I guess like by the time I was born, CDs were already a thing. But I have so many vague memories. This is like kind of my cool guy thing. There was this like pharmacy chain in Seattle where I grew up. And for some reason they sold cassettes there, but it was just like it's basically like a Walgreens. It's like our local Walgreens or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for some reason they had Incubus, Make Yourself, Deftones, Adrenaline, and then like Fuel, if you remember that band. And
yes,
I remember
Fuel. Yes.
Those are the first albums I was like buying, and they were on cassette. And my mom was like, we can just go get the CDs. And I was like, nah, like I fuck with the cassettes. And like, for some reason, my mom was like, why? Like, you don't do this. Like,
she's like, that's not a good idea. You're like, no, Mom, this is sick. I mean, I will say, I would take those albums in any form. I'd take them in cassette. I'd take them in Laserdisc if I had to. I mean, those are some pretty ridiculous albums, you know?
Dude, absolutely. And so with that being said, like, you know, growing up, moving around, like, I'm guessing like music had to have been sort of like the constant for you. You know what I'm saying? Like you mentioned, like having to make friends everywhere you moved to. But was music sort of, and as like corny as this sounds, was music sort of like that friend to you? Like that was always kind of there for you? Like when did you discover it?
Definitely. I feel like, you know, I'm sure a lot of artists and writers feel like this, but I definitely felt like the outsider no matter where I was. Because it's like everybody knew each other. They knew each other forever. They were best friends. They, you know, they probably were born in cribs next to each other. And here I am showing up the new guy always. And so it just, that outsider feeling, like, you know, as weird as it was always like I would go and I would buy records and just by the way that the front cover looked. So I ended up buying like Cypress Hill, Temples of Boom, and I bought like Green Day, Dookie, and I bought Nirvana, Nevermind, and you know the Fuel records and all this different stuff. And a lot of those, even honestly, the Linkin Park Meteora one and some of that stuff. It's like when I listened to Linkin Park, I was like, this guy gets it. Like he's an outsider like me. Like, and I think some of those perspectives of the artists that were singing, the lyrics they were like, you know, putting out there. I was like, especially like Korn and things like that, where they had really shitty relationships with their, you know, their family in different ways. I was like, okay, like I relate with these people. These people, I'm not so different from these people. I'm like all these other people with these shiny lives where everything is perfect and they know everybody and they have best friends and whatever else. I'm like, my life doesn't look like that. It looks more like these people. So I think from the moment I started listening to music, it was almost like I knew I was part of that club, but I didn't know what it exactly was. I was like, I thought maybe it was just the outsider reject, you know, kind of thing, you know?
I mean, American Reject, baby.
That's right. That's right. All American Reject, 100%.
And, you know, with that being said, though, you know, when did you first sort of like pick up a guitar? And then, you know, going off that too, like when was the moment where like you were like, damn, like I kind of might be good at this? Like what was that moment? Like,
you know, the first moment was kind of a sad thing. You know, when my dad passed away, I was just trying to look for a way to like channel some of those feelings and emotions. And so I found his old guitar in my garage, picked it up. It was an acoustic, started playing it, started writing songs. And then I found out there was like an 8th grade talent show. And I was the loser of all losers. Like no one was my friend. You know what I mean? Like I was not cool at all. Red hair does horrible things for you. The girls, it's funny because the girls liked me. Like they're like, oh, different. Like this is cool. He's nice to me. Like all that stuff. Yeah, I was an exotic hunk. But to the dudes were like, this guy is a wuss. He doesn't play any sports. He's an idiot. All he does is try to make people laugh all the time. So I entered the 8th grade talent show and I won it. And it was the weirdest thing because I wrote the song. It was the first time performing or playing for anybody in person with a guitar and doing any kind of song. And the reaction was insane. It was like everybody was magnetized to me. All of a sudden, everybody was my friend. Everybody claimed me as like, I know him. He's my buddy. Like, we did this, we've done this. And I'm going, I'm popular, you know, like, but it was kind of like this, like, oh shit, if music is the thing that pulls people to me and I can like, you know, because I think my personality, I have a lot of gaps in the way that I talk with people or the way I relate or whatever, to where I'm not always like, I don't know, I just don't always connect with everybody super easily. But music is that thing that pieces me together with people who are not like me. And that's what the 8th grade talent show showed me. So from then on, I was like, if I felt like people didn't like me, I'd pick up a guitar and be like, can I play you guys a song? You know, especially with girls. I was teasing the other day. It was like somebody was playing something. It wasn't BB Mac, but it was some sort of like teeny bopper song or something. Yeah. Anyway, Incubus. It was Incubus Drive. Remember Incubus Drive?
Of course, dude. I played it at my talent show.
if I played Incubus Drive for any girls, it was almost like instant, like, oh my gosh, I like you, let's date, you know? So
Dude.
it was my cheat code, bro. It was my cheat code. Music has been the thing that really has helped with a lot of stuff, you know?
I love that so much, dude. I can relate. Like in 8th grade, 8th grade, I was playing like Weezer at the talent shows and shit like that. And then in high school, yeah, like I was kind of a chubby kid growing up, and I had like really long emo hair over one eye.
Yes,
and by the time I got to high school, you know, the pounds started falling off a bit. So my secret weapon was like playing songs like Drive, or like, I guess around that time though, it was probably like playing like Mayday Parade songs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or like, actually the real secret weapon was Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River, just because like if you could even do like one little vocal run, everyone's like, whoa, okay.
Dude, like, okay, he's bringing sexy back. All right.
Yeah, you know, but probably bringing awkward back, to be honest, if we're really looking back on it. But like, it's funny you bring up the talent show too, because I was just talking to, do you know the band Silverstein?
Oh yeah.
So I was talking to Shane, shouts out to Shane, awesome guy. From Silverstein, the singer, and he brought up his 8th grade talent show as well. And brought up a story of him ripping this like guitar solo over Green Day's When I Come Around, and his crowd went wild. And I was like, and I asked him, I was like, was that the moment that you knew you wanted to be a musician? And he was like, no, honestly, everybody still wrote in my yearbook, too bad you can't sing. And then it's like 20 years later, he's put out like 10 albums. I was like, dude, talent shows, they really do a lot, like to kind of start you on your journey though, like no matter what.
It's
like,
true. It forced me to like, okay, I'm going to write a song. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to be ready to play it in front of people. Like just getting that preparation, even that in of itself. And then from there, it led to like doing Battle of the Bands, you know? So it's like, I got the nerves up to do that. I'm like, okay, I could do a Battle of the Bands next, you know?
And were you playing in like bands throughout high school and like college and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is that like, I feel like for kids now, it's like, you know, get on TikTok and do something crazy. And before that, it was like go on American Idol and get discovered by Kelly Clarkson. And then, you know, for me, it was like start a band. Every single like amazing artist that I followed or was listening to were just these dudes that met each other in high school or college and just went off and did something great. And so I started a 3-piece band. We tried to be like Marvelous 3. I feel like very often it was either Marvelous 3 or Incubus. And so, yeah,
Freak the Week by Marvelous 3 is like the best song of all time, dude. So good.
I'm from I claim Atlanta, like, cause I did most of my like growing up in Atlanta. So there's a lot of rock and a lot of hip hop. So it was Outkast and then, you know, Marvelous 3 and Butch Walker. And like every time I see Butch out, I try not to geek out. I try not to be that ridiculous, like idiot fanboy, but I see him and I want to say hi, but I know I'm going to say something really stupid. So I just don't say anything at all. But I'm like, somebody's like, is that Butch Walker? I'm like, yes, it is. It's Butch Walker.
I wouldn't be able to keep it together if I saw Butch Walker.
Dude, he's such a stud. I mean, Freak of the Week and all the records that he produced in Atlanta, like for this band called Injected that was there. And he did like a Seven Dust record that I was really into. Like that was amazing. And it was just, I don't know, man. There's some guys, some people that I geek out over and the rest I don't. Like I feel like Trent Reznor, Butch Walker, maybe, you know, Chris Martin or something, but that's about it.
Ooh, you had me going until you said Chris Martin, buddy. You had me going, dude. You had me, yo, man. Respect.
You know, I consist of multitudes of thought, you know. Chris Martin, I just, you know, sometimes I want to chill mode, you know.
I get that. No, for sure. I mean, I'm such a the producer of this show, Joe. The account I'm using for this podcast. He was like a big Coldplay fan, and he had like a big cardboard cutout of them when we were in college.
Shut up!
And I remember kicking it and like breaking it like drunk one night, just destroying it.
That's funny. You're like, suck it, Chris Martin.
Okay, so you're playing in bands in like high school and whatnot, and then obviously you get to your college years, and so you're saying you went to college in Nashville. Is that like, did you go to Belmont?
Yeah, I ended up going to Belmont and majoring in business with like an emphasis in the music business. So I ended up getting like my bachelor's in business, which has been super helpful to have that kind of business mind and be able to like know what's up when it comes to like contracts. And it's really kind of like, it was the right move. Because I think if I would have done music like at the school, I probably would have sang funny, or they would have changed some of the character and what I did. And I felt like for me, I just needed to kind of like not have somebody wrangling me,
that completely makes sense. I've heard about that from a lot of people that go to music school, like strictly for music. It sometimes kind of takes out the right brain aspect of music, where it just becomes all left brain. It's all technicality and everything like that. And it's like, that's interesting that you bring that up. So like, like a business degree though, that is so valuable. Cause I mean, let's be honest, a lot of musicians do not have that business mindset.
No. Oh my gosh.
They sometimes get screwed over, and so that's a secret weapon right there, dude. That's awesome.
Definitely. It's one of those things where it's like, I have so many people that I know that are probably incredibly more talented than me, probably write better songs, sing better, play better, but they're their own worst enemy. It's like they either sabotage themselves into some crazy deal, or they hook themselves up with some manager, or get connected to some production deal that really screws them, and their music never comes out. And so I think I was lucky in that I had a lot of like training and knowledge on like, hey, don't do this. I still ended up signing a horrible record deal first, because there's no avoiding it. I mean, it's like, hey kid, you want to be famous? I'll make you a star. And you're like, really? It's like, okay,
So when did that happen? When did the first record deal happen?
So in my high school years, we ended up playing this like birthday show, and for this barbershop guy, he had us come and play for his kids. I don't even know how that happened. Maybe our drummer knew him or something. And at that show, there was a A&R from Interscope, and the guy walked up and he's like, I want to sign you guys. Like, and he was the one who kind of like was a part of the stuff with Outkast and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And I think Jeff Blue was the guy above him, which at the time he had signed Linkin Park and a bunch of other things. And so I was like, let's go. But the other two guys with me in the group were like, no, we're not doing this. Like, I'm going to college. Like, I'm going to be, a pharmacist, or I'm going to work for the CIA or whatever, and so that sucked. Everything fell apart in that moment. So when I went to college, I ended up connecting with this band. And I was just a guitar player. I was like, I'm not being the singer anymore. I'm sick of dragging people around. So I ended up being with this band, and the band got signed my junior year of college to this record label. And funny enough, we were like, let's just finish college. We got one more year. And I thought we were going to finish college, hit the road, giant tour, big record, big splash. Little did I know it was going to take another few years to get all of our crap together. And, it's crazy.
What band was this, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's funny. Like I said, when I moved here, it was either country or it was Christian. And so I ended up being a part of this Christian band called Mike's Chair. And it was like kind of rock, but honestly, it was an amalgamation of all these weird influences, and there was no way it was going to ever fully blast off into the stratosphere with what we were doing, But I did 2 records with them, and then I ended up leaving the band. And the moment I left the band is the moment that I met Josh and Zach Farro from Paramore, or I guess formerly of Paramore, but you know what I'm saying. And that's when I was working with them after that band. And that's when I kind of realized like, oh, alternative is my thing. Like, this is what I'm good at. This is what's most natural to me. And that was in itself was a crazy experience. So.
and I want to get into that in one second, but I'm curious too, because like I actually grew up loving like Christian metalcore and like Christian, like anything on Tooth and Nail or Solid State Records.
Under Oath was like one of my. I didn't even realize like Under Oath, and even as funny as it was, like Hawk Nelson back in the day had some crazy songs on some big soundtracks that I would run into. And there was an era where Christian music was really rad. I mean, even DC Talk and Jars of Clay. I mean, they were on
I love
Rolling
DC
Stone,
Talk.
and dude, I mean, they were killing it. I don't know when everything went like south, you know, in that genre, but there was a time in the early 2000s or 90s where it was just dope. And so it's crazy, you know, like I think so I thought, hey, we could do music like that and everything was going to be good, but it didn't necessarily work out like that.
Yeah, and I mean, the industry was on fire in terms of like, you know, faith-based music at that time, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, I grew up Catholic, so I definitely I was around. I mean, obviously Catholicism is a lot different than I guess like a lot of that stuff was probably more like evangelical to a degree, but like I don't know.
Totally. I mean, I would think that like Catholics would listen to like you know, Jars of Clay or DC Talk or like even Newsboys. Newsboys back in the day was pretty sick too. So
My mom loved Jars of Clay. But like it's interesting because like my parents would like have no problem taking us to like a Kill Switch Engage show, but then also they're like, oh, but like Under Oath likes God too. That's cool. All right, cool. You know,
I still remember the day I found out that Blindside was like somewhat related to like Christian, you know, background,
yeah,
and I was like, Blindside was I loved how he could go from a full on scream to like an incredible sung vocal, and dude was ripping on guitar, and I'm like, wait, they're like, I think it was only like a 4-piece or a 3-piece, but I was blown away when I found out. Like, I was like, oh, some of this music is about that, like crazy. So I'm more into that kind of thing. Even now, I'm like 21 Pilots and Blindside and some of these bands that like, I think like faith is cool to have it as part of your life, but
yeah,
then like let your music just be your music. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly, dude. Like I couldn't agree more, and that's really interesting. So yeah, like so meeting the Farro brothers
Yeah.
was sort of a turning point in that sense, you know, like
It was, and you know, I don't even know if Josh would like me to share this, but I'm going to share it anyways. But the first day that I wrote with him, one of the guys who was in Paramore had connected us. He was a guitar player, other guitar player, like an aux guy. He's like, you need to write with Josh. I feel like you guys would connect. And literally the day that I wrote with him, he got served papers from the band, like sued. And it was just like, and literally before we had gotten together, I saw on the news everything kind of blowing off, like that they had left. And it was just like, it was kind of heavy. And I remember hanging out with them, and for some reason, like I knew for some reason I was there in that moment to kind of be with him, hang with him. And I think that like we kind of bonded over some of that, like me leaving my band, him leaving his band, and just how difficult that is. It's kind of like a divorce. And so I was literally kind of there with him through this divorce, him and his brother, and we all kind of bonded and, you know, started making music. And but it was a crazy time.
that must have been really, really crazy. But you know, with all of that though, like this, you know, I think this is something I've always been curious of. So was this kind of the period of time where you were mainly focusing on like writing for other artists, really getting in that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, what ended up happening was, you know, I was writing for other artists and I was trying to start a band with Josh and Zach, and we did. We had a 10-song record, we had management, we had booking, and then one day there was just this kind of internal rub on like direction for the band, how we wanted things to sound, who we wanted to sing on what, and it just kind of imploded. I mean, looking back now later, I realized that Zach had his own kind of thing going on and Josh had his own thing. And so I think it never really was meant to come together anyways, but it was just devastating. And I think at that point I was like, I'm done. Like I thought everything was going to pop off. I thought things were going to be, you know, we're just going to go on tour and whatever else. And here I am again by myself, like trying to figure stuff out. And so I just kind of resolved myself to like, I'm not going to be an artist. I'm just going to be a writer. I'm just going to help other people. And that's kind of when I met this girl named Maggie, and we kind of started doing some Ruel stuff. And Ruel ended up, you know, blasting off with her stuff in kind of more of like the TV and film space. And I really just kind of like, I don't know, it was like a letting go of a lot of things. I was like, I had this rock vocal, but no one likes rock right now. So like, I don't even know what to do with it. You know, even the Farro guys, they were like, man, you have an amazing voice, but like, it's almost like you're a character, you're cast as a character in the wrong movie. And at the time I didn't understand what they meant because they were trying to do like the National, Seawolf, local natives, that kind of sound, more indie. And I can kind of mock that, but it's not my go-to. Like my go-to is more aggressive and more like rock. And at that time it wasn't cool. So here I am trying to hold my voice back and sing less and, you know, kind of tame everything. And it just wasn't vibing. And so at the end of the day, it all made sense. But yeah, I was writing for a while for other people and just had resolved to like, I'm not an artist. It's never going to happen.
That's so crazy. And I'm so glad that you didn't like change your voice in any way, you know, because I think your voice is so distinct and it has such a great tenor to it. And it has that little bit of rasp to it. It's got a lot of character and your melodic sensibilities. Like, I think obviously you have proven this, like you write big hooks, like you don't need to be like, and I like the National, but you don't need to be like over like post-punk, you know, kind of stuff, like indie stuff. Like you don't, like, you know.
Yeah, in a weird, at the time I was pissed off when they had said it, but now looking back, they may have had just some other perspective that I wasn't ready to hear, which is your voice is the best tool for this type of thing, you know, and it took a while to get back to that thing. I mean, this record that I'm doing now is kind of me finally coming back to like being myself and singing how I sing. I mean, I was even kind of hiding my rock vocal behind these kind of more cinematic tracks before this and some more kind of Imagine Dragon-ish type stuff. Because at the time, that's the only thing that was cool for a rock vocal. There still wasn't, you weren't allowed to be like a full-on rock vocalist and have any sort of people listening to you, you know? I mean, a lot of people kind of falling in obscurity during that time who were rock centric, you know? So it was kind of cool to like start feeling, it was funny enough. It was the Oliver Tree record. I saw the first Oliver Tree record come out and I saw the numbers on his record. And I was like, wait, I love this. People love this. Holy crap. Like, but he was far left. So it was really far left, kind of wacky. And I'm like, I feel like I could do this, but bring it more in the middle. And rather than be like Blink-182 or all this punk rock stuff that's starting, I'm like, I could aim more towards Weezer because I love Weezer. I love Everclear, like all these different bands that I was obsessed with that people weren't really pulling from, you know?
That's so cool. And like, that was kind of my next question is like, you have found success essentially like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like your solo music, it's almost like there's two artists within Sam Tinnesz. There's like the very cinematic that's like, it's awesome. It's very epic and it's like perfect for syncs. And it's obviously every time I'm on like TikTok, one of your songs is like the background of like, it could be like a video of somebody like, I don't know, going to Walmart and I just hear your song in the background. I'm like, hey, that's Sam. That's crazy. But then there's the music you're doing with There Goes the Neighborhood, you know, where to me as a fan and knowing you, it sounds like it is just your love letter to your influences. And it feels like you're just a kid in a candy shop making everything you want to make, you know? Like
100%. So cool. Yeah. I think one of the rules for the new record was kind of like, don't think about how this is going to be used. Don't think about, because I'm like a businessman who does music. So it's like, I would always be like, but what is this going to be for? You know, what am I going to make this music for? This time I promised myself I gave myself the liberty to say, you know what, just do whatever you want, however you want to do it. Like just make the best thing you possibly can. Because I think what was happening was like, I was having success with some of these more TV film songs or more kind of like, you know, like a Legends Are Made or a Play with Fire, and people were hearing it and all sorts of cool stuff. And the feeling of like things going well and being able to provide for my family was amazing. But I'm like, okay, everybody's provided for. Like, what do I want to do? What is my actual voice? You know? Yeah. And I think when 2020 hit, as cheesy as this sounds, like there was just a lot of death, a lot of seriousness, a lot of heaviness. And I was just like, man, why did I get into music? Why did I start doing music? Like I did it because I loved it. I listened to these bands growing up and like, this is the kind of music I wanted to do. So this record was just me like coming back to what I've always loved, which is rock music in all forms, whether it's alternative rock or it's punk rock or it's pop rock or, you know, heavy, like for me, like, you know, Bad News is kind of like leaning into like more of the heavier rock stuff that I possibly could get away with. But it's like, you know, I think, I don't know, you totally hit the nail on the head. This is like my my love letter to all of my influences. And I even got to bring some of them on board, bringing Dashboard in and bringing Nick from All American Rejects. And I never imagined that was going to happen. That was not in my plans. That was just a beautiful thing to happen,
It's such a cool full circle thing. And and I love that you bring up like the 2020 thing because, to be honest, like I think so many people, I mean, look, like we did not think rock was going to come back like this.
No.
And that is one of the positives to come out of such a terrible time, like, and
Agreed.
It's so crazy because it's like, we're not even looking at rock music or emo, pop punk, pop rock, alternative in a nostalgic way anymore. I think we're just giving it its flowers finally again. Like we're finally realizing like, oh, that was kind of weird that we like weren't like, this was like the greatest music, like in my opinion, like ever made. And it's like, why don't we just like start like enjoying this again? And, I thought about this last night. Like I was at that Bayside show last night.
Oh,
and,
yes.
It's so crazy. Like here they are. It's a sold out show at the Belasco, which is like, it's a pretty, I think it's like a almost 2,000 cap venue or something.
That's a big room.
It's a big room and it's a Friday night in LA. They sold it out. And I'm thinking like 10 years ago, I was seeing Bayside, maybe during when there was a time when there was a bit of more of a lull in the scene. And they were playing at El Corazon in Seattle, which was like, I think it's like a 500 cap venue and it wasn't sold out. And it's so wild. And it's like, I talk to these bands like Silverstein, who I brought up, like they're bigger than they've ever been. And this genre is the biggest it's ever been. And
wild.
It's so wild. And it's so cool that it's like, it's so corny. And my friends always make fun of me because I always say everything happens for a reason. But it's like your scenario too, like it is like an everything happens for a reason thing. Like you're putting out this record that you've always wanted to make, but you're putting it out at kind of the perfect time. Like if you had put this out in like 2014, like who knows? It would have been missing in the wind, but it's not.
Literally, I had that thought all the time because it's like, I think the only indicator I had was like this crazy wild left record of Oliver Tree was happening. I mean, there was really nothing else that really was out and really thriving in that way. But I was like, man, I love these sounds. Like, I hope this is coming back. You know what? Let's just try a song. And so I tried a song and it was so natural. And I was like, holy crap, this is like the guy that if you're listening to this music, I'm the same person as this music. Like that's never happened for me. I'm always like putting on a character or whatever. And I did it again and again. And it was like, I put a guitar solo down and I'm like, holy crap, I can play guitar solos again. Like it was almost like I was getting my magic back. It was like, it was this weird feeling. I mean, I even on that Bittersweet song with Dashboard, I remember sitting there looking at Chris after we had just written this song. He was pumped. I was pumped. Seth, the producer, was pumped. And we're going to put the guitar solo down. And I was just so in the moment of euphoria that I lay down this guitar solo that I still to this day, I don't know how I played it. I don't think I could play it again, but it was a moment. And I feel like this record, I captured lots of moments that I'm not sure I could do again. And that's the kind of level of like recording that I was hoping to capture. Cause these days it's like, I don't know, you just don't get that kind of magic as much in recordings. We're just slapping through them and smashing through them. But I just had the luxury of time. Everything had shut down. Everything was doing nothing. So I'm like, I'm just going to focus on this record and drive it to the ground until I love every last bit of it, So I don't know. I'm really, honestly, I'm thankful. It feels like there was a little God wink of like, hey, like go this way. Cause there was nothing going on in the rock scene at that moment. There was no reason for me to make that record and spend all this money to record these songs and do what we did. But here we are and things are back. And like you said, bigger than ever. And it's just wild. It's amazing. And the things that have come from it, like I'm writing with other artists that I grew up listening to because of this record that I've been putting out. It's mind blowing.
It's so mind blowing. And it's so cool because like, also like with this record, like, and once again, I'm biased, but your hooks are so strong. And I think coupling that with this, like, rock revival or, pop rock revival, whatever we want to call it, that really sets it apart. Like from, and I'm not in any way disparaging somebody like an MGK or anything like that. I like MGK. he's cool. And I think there are some good hooks, but like the hooks that you're doing are very, very clever. They're very, very infectious. And like, I can see like, I think is the song Prozac perfect? Is that the one that you sent me the other day? Like, that's gonna go viral on TikTok. Like that will go viral on TikTok.
Please, Lord.
It will, dude. Like I was listening to that one. I was like, okay, damn. Like, and it's crazy because like every time you send me something, like, because I haven't heard the entire record yet, and it's like you send me Spaced Out. I'm like, oh fuck, like this is. Well, actually, your publicist sent me Spaced Out.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yes, and dude, like I was like, damn, like this is my favorite Sam song so far. And then I listened to Prozac Perfect. Nuts. I'm like, damn, this is my favorite Sam song so far. It's so crazy, dude. Like, and
that's awesome.
It's so exciting, and it's what like we're like 2 weeks out from the release, right? Is it?
Yeah.
March
so next week, the 24th, the record comes out, which is wild.
Okay, so
I know it's so soon. I've been working on it for so long. It's been 2 years of working on it, and then another year and a bit of putting out a single at a time. And I remember coming to the distribution company and being like, I want to put out 9 singles. And they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, yes, there is. We're going to do it. They're like, it's going to take a while. I'm like, I got as long as you need. So like, let's just do it. So, and usually I'm so multi-genre. I'm putting out a soul song or a cinematic song or a pop song or whatever. This time I was like, you know what? This record deserves focus. Like I need to be focused. Like, so I think too, like my path, people have been fans of the songs rather than fans of me. And it's been a little depressing in some moments where I'm like, man, this song's got 250 million streams on it, but I literally can't even get over 30,000 followers on Instagram or people who are like, whatever. So not that the numbers matter, but it bothers me sometimes of like, people are fans of the song, not necessarily me. And so I was like, this time I'm going to make a record that is me, and it's all going to be one thing. And I think that's my hope, is that I can put out this record, people fall in love with it, and then we can all go for a ride from here, you know?
I love that. And I feel like your personality alone is what's like such a big part of like how I think this record is going to really travel so far. Cause like, even like the videos that you're doing, like where you're like, I forget what you're doing, where you're like on the street. Were you like, I forget, like, what were you doing? Like,
I was shaving people's heads. Oh my god, shaving
people's heads. Yeah, the Britney moment.
People were so pissed because there's a lyric in my song, Sometimes People Suck. It was like, shave my head like Britney, singing out "Hit Me, Baby" right in the face now. And just kind of, I have to reference her "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" record, and I had to kind of mention this wild moment in time where she's shaving her freaking head because people are chasing her down. The Britney fans were coming for me, bro.
I remember you telling me that.
Dude, it was like death threats. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll stop doing this. But I basically went downtown and I was going like, this is the Britney challenge. Will you shave your head for $50? And trying to get people to shave their head. And eventually I'd find some poor soul who would shave their head for 50 or $60. And they would just, would just shave their head. So TikTok was going wild over that because, 500,000 views and all this stuff for no reason other than I'm literally shaving people's heads. And it's like, it's hard. It's a hard balance because it's like, you want to hit the algorithm, you want to be in people's feeds and you want to be there. And I could totally be the comedian game show host all day long because I'm goofy like that. But I was like, okay, this is fun, but I don't want to be the shave head guy,
No, of course
but you know what I'm saying? But it was like that moment was funny. And I was like, okay, I'm going to bring people in with this and then hit them with the music, So
yeah, no, but I mean, like, even just on socials though, like you can just tell like you're always putting out positivity. And I think that's really important. And I really hate the term. This is just on my show, my platform. I hate the term toxic positivity. People always say that term.
Oh, I don't even know if I've heard that term.
People always will be like, oh, like being positive is like not okay because it's not recognizing that like the world is fucked. It's like, no.
Oh my gosh.
We need positivity right now. We need to have
for
fun.
Real.
And I think that's so amazing. And I think that's like, I can't wait to see more like how much more like your fan base gets to know you, and sees, everything that you do. And because you are just putting out so much good in the world, you know? And I think that's
Thanks,
so
man.
important. Of course, dude. Like, and
my hope is just like, with Prozac Perfect, it's like, I went through 2 years of dealing with like panic and anxiety and all this crazy stuff from trauma of losing my dad in the past. And, I put myself through torture trying not to take medicine, trying to like just do dieting and all this different stuff to make myself in a better place. And it just wasn't happening. And so I had to like put that shame aside and that stigma of like, well, I'm going to go to a therapist and I might take medicine, and like to finally get to a point where I was okay with taking medicine. I could look myself in the mirror and go like, you know what? You didn't choose for this trauma to happen to you. It just did. And like, you have to take medicine so you can be a better father. You can be a better friend. You can be a better husband. I'm failing the people around me that I love. I want to be there for them. I don't want to be so self-consumed. And that's what anxiety and panic does. It kind of turns you inward and makes you only think about yourself. And so like this song, Prozac Perfect, is kind of like just a little bit of like a confessional of just a bunch of things that I deal with. Like, why am I obsessed with my phone? Why do I always need to be around people? Like, what's wrong with me? And like, the second verse talking about like, my therapist, like my Tuesday therapist, I would always go to therapy on Tuesday. And in the end of it, I'm sitting there crying like, oh, and then this thing happened. And then, then the clock hits the 12 mark and he's like, okay, so that's our session for today. Do you want to book next time? And I'm like, yes, yeah, I want to book next time. They're like, okay, great. Do you have your card with you? Could you pay right now? And I'm thinking, okay, this person cares, but they kind of don't. Like they're just literally taking my freaking money and listening to me cry for an hour. So I don't know. It was just all these like funny things that I was thinking about. And I'm like, here I am smiley on the outside, but I'm literally just dying. And I don't know. I think it was just my journey with like mental health, that whole song. So that's my way of putting out positivity of just like, does anybody else feel like this? Cause like, this is crazy. Like, and I think, the biggest lie we can believe with mental health stuff is like, I'm the worst. I'm the only one that feels like this. No one else is going through this. And what you've come to realize when you like let it out and you tell people about it is that like, you are one of a big group of people that all are suffering with the same thing. And together we can get through things, and today is horrible, but maybe tomorrow will be better. And I think that's the kind of feeling I want people to feel with the music, and just this like, hey, like we're all kind of degenerates and that's all right. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's all right. Like we can still keep moving forward and getting better. And so I don't know, this record in general, there's a lot of like that kind of thing of just like seeing how people were acting during 2020, the madness that was happening. I was like, I consider myself a faith-based person, but this group of people, they're a bunch of assholes right now. Like I don't want to be associated with any of this. Yeah. And that was kind of weird and hard to, so I think the record covers a lot of that. And it's just, I've never been so honest with lyrics and all that. So I'm glad that you feel positivity, because sometimes when I was playing it live on tour, I'd get done with the set and be like, oh, dang, did I just spew a bunch of like haterade,
No, dude, no. I think you spew authenticity, dude. And I think what's really interesting too is like you can talk about really important topics like mental health, like on Prozac Perfect. And but you're not glamorizing it in any way. You're not drinking a pint of lean and have face tattoos and you're crying and saying, I want to die every day, just like looks, sometimes, self-destruction is really glamorous. Sometimes,
it's not sexy. It is not sexy.
Yeah, it's not sexy, but sometimes people think it's sexy.
I know. It's like when you're 20 years old or like you're 18, like maybe it's kind of sexy. And then you inch into your like mid-20s and it's like, this is not cute. Y'all need to get your shit together.
I think you just show like that you are a real person. Like you can be, Sam Tinnesz with like, a beautiful family, a happy life, platinum selling singles and millions of streams, but you're also still a real guy. Like you've been through, tons of trials and tribulations, just like anybody else, and you're just showing your life, you're just painting your picture, that's important. And like, that was kind of, I don't want to take up too much for your time, but that was kind of my next two questions sort of was like,
Yeah.
You did do a tour, I think it was like fall of last year, right? Like,
yeah. It's crazy because the record was supposed to come out then, but there was so much stuff coming out during that time. And then it was like right before Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I was like, I don't think this is good timing. So we pushed it into the new year. And I'm glad we did because it gave me more time. I added the Spaced Out single. And so that fall tour was supposed to be like a record release tour with Bryce Fox. And but man, that tour was so cool. Like I had been putting out music like an internet boy for the last 5 to 7 years, not meeting anybody, not really having any interactions. And then to get there in person with all these fans and be like, and hear these stories of like, hey, like me and my wife, we met because of your music, or like, hey, like I feel like less like an outsider because I listen to your song, and like you it's the same thing I had with Linkin Park and with some of the other bands. It's like, hey, like I relate to you, and I'm like, okay, yeah, awesome, and I don't people like hugging me and crying because certain songs spoke to them, stuff like that. I don't get that, as a songwriter, you don't get that, but as an artist going out and touring, like it's just something else, man. I get why people are addicted to that feeling and why people do it all the time, whether they need to or not, because connecting in that way is so cool. So it was really fun.
I love to hear that. And I always like to ask artists too, like it must be like really valuable to sort of road test a lot of that material too, like seeing crowd reaction and everything. Like, would you say that like now that when you go into the next record, you're like, okay, now I know what kind of gets the crowd to like go off. Like this is maybe next time,
Definitely. I mean, funny enough, it's like certain songs I thought would be like high energy. When I went to go play them, I'm like, wow, that fell flat. That was so weird. Like Can't Take Me Anywhere. I thought that would be a ripper for like live, but it was just so much live. I don't know, like it just didn't feel the same. It's just kind of weird. But it definitely taught me like, okay, next time I'm going to do more of this kind of stuff, have these breaks, these kind of show moments. And like every time I do it, I know you just get better. So, I mean, somebody like Anthony, Bayside, who's been doing it forever, it's like, and even Chris from Dashboard, when I go and see their shows, it's like a college course on how to do like a live show and do it well and connect with the crowd. Like there's something magic that they have, and I just try to take it in from some, they're my elder emos. So I'm just trying to take it all in,
Dude, absolutely. And then, just sort of the last question, I have is like, obviously the record comes out next Friday. This is really exciting. You have, I believe, your album release party is that weekend, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Very exciting. And so, what is sort of next? Like, are you going to hit the road? I don't know if you can reveal any of that quite yet, but
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's like, I definitely am going to do some touring. There's some stuff in the works that's going to happen. But I think for me, the real question is, how many songs am I going to release next year? I mean, I've got 15 or so that I'm releasing through this album. I mean, I've got so many that are coming. There's one, that's honestly, it didn't make the record. It was a B-side from the record, a song called Drunk on a Friday. And there's a guy named Timmy Trumpet, who's an EDM artist, and he heard it, and it's like a full-on rock song. And he was like, I love it. I want it. Can we do this together? And so there's collaborations happening like that will continue to bring the spirit of this record forward into the future, And there will definitely be a deluxe version of this album with some acoustic versions or remixes and even a new song. So there's more coming. I'm like, I just don't want this record to end. So I just keep trying to kind of spread it out,
Of course.
But I don't know. It is a question mark what's going to come next. If people react the way I hope they do to this record, then, we're going to keep going and keep spreading it out,
I think people are going to react very, very, very well to it. I genuinely believe that for everything Thanks, I've heard, it is top notch. It's amazing music. And, just congrats on all of that, just
thank you, man,
dude. It sounds like a labor of love, and it's fucking awesome, dude. And, I guess, actually my question is, I'm wondering, are you thinking about maybe doing like a vinyl release of it as well at some point?
Of course. I feel like when I picked the album cover, I was like, this would look so sick on a vinyl. So it's in my mind for sure. And like, because I don't know if you can see it, but right there, I have a little vinyl listening station, because when I pull up my computer, I'm so distracted. I go to emails. If I have Spotify playing, I just cannot focus. So listening to vinyl is literally the only way I can get myself to literally just listen. You know, I put my phone down and I sit down and I listen to some of these records that I just love. And so I'm like, I want people to have the same experience with this record, to just put on There Goes the Neighborhood and just get kind of wrapped up in the story of it. And hopefully it's a record that inspires other people to make amazing music in the future. You know, that's really my goal. I want to have an impact on music history in some way. I don't know how that looks or how that even happens, but you know, it's like the only thing you can do is just put out the most honest, best art you can, and then try to do it again, you know?
It's inspiring, dude. That's amazing. Well, that is all my questions. I just want to say thank you so much again for jumping on.
Yeah. Really, dude, thanks for having me on. I love that you're doing this. This is sick.
Of course, dude. And I'm so excited for people to hear the episode, and I'm just so excited to hear the record and everything that's in store for you, dude. Truly. Yeah. Well, hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much again. But yeah, dude. Well, I'm sure we'll talk very soon.
All right, man.